Halloween was supposed to be orange and black, pumpkins and dark nights, spiders and bats. But this year, it was white, pure, cold white. I woke up that morning and looked out my window. Snow. Big, fluffy flakes were falling from a gray sky. They covered everything. The trees, the cars, the jack-o'-lantern on my porch with its toothy grin. It looked like Christmas had arrived 2 months early. My friends and I had been planning our costumes for weeks. We had talked about our trick-or-treating route. We were going to get so much candy this year, but the snow changed everything. It was a Halloween snowstorm. My mom said it was too cold to go out. She said it was dangerous. The sidewalks were slippery. The wind was blowing hard. It howled like a ghost outside our house. I thought my Halloween was ruined. I imagined sitting inside, watching scary movies, and eating the candy my mom bought just for me. It wasn't the same. Halloween is about being outside. It's about walking from house to house in the dark. It's about the thrill of ringing a doorbell and shouting, "Trick or treat." The snow was a thick white blanket, trying to smother all the fun. It made the world silent. Too silent for Halloween. I looked at my costume hanging on my closet door. A classic ghost. A simple white sheet with 2 eye holes cut out. It seemed perfect for a snowy night. I would blend in with the landscape. Maybe that was a good thing, maybe it was a bad thing. The snow kept falling all day. The news said it was a record-breaking storm. Most people decided to stay home. All the neighborhood Halloween parties were canceled. The streets were empty. It felt like the whole world was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. The quiet was the strangest part. Usually Halloween is loud with laughter and screams. By evening, the snow was deep on the ground. The wind pushed it into big piles against the houses and fences. My dad lit a fire in the fireplace. The house was warm and safe. But I couldn't stop thinking about the candy I was missing. All those chocolate bars and lollipops just waiting in bowls by front doors. I felt a pull to go outside, to face the storm. Was I crazy? Maybe. But it was Halloween, and Halloween only comes once a year. I decided I had to go. I had to at least try. I didn't know then that the snow wasn't the scariest thing I would face that night. Not even close. My phone buzzed. It was a message from my friend, Liam. "Are you still going?" he asked. I smiled. I wasn't the only crazy one. My other best friend, Maya, was on the group chat too. "Of course we are," she typed. "A little snow can't stop us." Liam was always the cautious one. Maya was the brave one. And I was somewhere in the middle. But tonight, Maya's courage was contagious. We made a plan. We would meet at the corner of my street in 10 minutes. We would be a team. A small, brave team against the storm. It was a mission. Operation Candy Rescue. I got ready fast. I put on my snow pants and my big winter coat over my regular clothes. Then, I pulled the ghost sheet over my head. It was hard to see, but I didn't care. I put on my thickest gloves and my winter boots. My mom watched me from the kitchen. She shook her head. "Be careful," she said, "and don't be out for long. Take your phone." I promised I would. I grabbed my plastic pumpkin bucket and stepped outside. The cold air hit my face. The wind tried to pull the sheet off my head. It was colder than I expected, much colder. I walked carefully down my front steps. The snow crunched loudly under my boots. It was the only sound in the quiet world. I saw 2 figures waiting for me at the corner. They looked like puffy marshmallows in the dark. It was Liam and Maya. Liam was dressed as a vampire, but his long black cape was mostly hidden under a huge blue parka. Maya was a witch, and her pointy hat was pulled down low over her ski hat. We looked ridiculous. We were a ghost, a vampire, and a witch, all dressed for an Arctic expedition. We laughed when we saw each other. "Ready for this?" Maya asked. Her voice was muffled by her scarf. Liam shivered. "I hope it's worth it," he said, looking at the dark, snowy street ahead of us. "It will be," I said, trying to sound more confident than I felt. "Think of all the candy. People will feel bad for us trick-or-treating in this weather. They'll give us extra." We stood there for a moment, a small team of 3. The snow fell around us, catching the light from the street lamps. It looked beautiful. But it also felt a little eerie. We were the only people out. The adventure was about to begin. We started our journey. Our boots sank into the deep snow with every step. It was hard work. We went to the first house. The lights were on, and a big pumpkin glowed on the porch. We rang the doorbell. A woman opened the door and gasped. "Oh, you brave kids," she said. She filled our buckets to the top. "You deserve all of it for coming out in this." My prediction was right. The houses that were open for business were very generous. We felt like heroes. We were conquering the storm and getting rewarded with treasure. Chocolate treasure. The first few houses were great. But as we walked farther into the neighborhood, we noticed something strange. There were hardly any other kids out. On a normal Halloween, these streets would be filled with groups of children. You would hear shouts of trick or treat, echoing from every direction. You would see little ninjas and princesses running across lawns. Tonight, there was only us. The silence was heavy. The only sounds were our own crunching footsteps and the whistling of the wind. The snow made everything look different, softer. It also made everything feel more isolated. It was like we were in our own little world. We passed house after house with dark windows. No pumpkins, no lights, no candy. It was disappointing. Our mission was harder than we thought. The fun and excitement started to fade a little. A feeling of unease began to creep in. The snow was getting heavier now. The flakes were big and wet. They stuck to my ghost sheet, making it heavy. I had to keep adjusting the eye holes to see. It felt like the world was closing in on us. The streetlights cast long, strange shadows on the white ground. Every tree looked like a monster with snowy arms reaching for us. "This is kinda creepy," Liam whispered. His voice was shaky. He was right. The fun atmosphere was gone. It was replaced by a quiet tension. The houses looked like empty eyes watching us. The silence wasn't peaceful anymore. It was menacing. We were all alone on these empty streets. It felt like we were the only 3 people left in the whole town. We were just a small group of friends, walking through a silent, white world. And we were about to find out that we weren't as alone as we thought. Something was out there with us, watching. We decided to try one more street. It was a long street with big old houses set far back from the road. The streetlights here were farther apart, leaving big patches of darkness between them. As we turned the corner, we saw him. A tall figure standing under a flickering streetlight. He was just standing there, perfectly still. He wasn't wearing a winter coat or a hat. He was just wearing dark clothes and a mask. It was a plain white mask. It had no expression, no smile, no frown. Just 2 black holes for eyes. It was the kind of mask that was scary because it was so simple. We stopped walking. All 3 of us froze. Who was he? Was he another trick-or-treater? He wasn't carrying a candy bag. He wasn't moving. He was just standing there in the falling snow, watching. The snow swirled around him, but he didn't seem to notice the cold. He was like a statue, a very creepy statue. My heart started to beat faster. A cold feeling washed over me, and it had nothing to do with the snow. It was fear. The man in the white mask didn't belong here. He felt wrong. The silence of the night suddenly felt a lot more dangerous. "Who is that?" Maya whispered. She didn't sound brave anymore. "I don't know," Liam said, his voice barely audible. "Let's go back." But we couldn't go back. He was between us and the way we came. We would have to walk past him. The figure slowly turned his head. The blank white mask faced us directly. I couldn't see his eyes through the dark holes, but I felt them. I felt like he was looking right at me. He didn't move. He didn't speak. He just stared. The silence was terrifying. My ghost costume suddenly felt very thin. It wouldn't protect me from anything. We stood there for what felt like forever. A standoff in the snow. Us against him. What did he want? Why was he just standing there? My mind raced with scary thoughts. Maybe he was waiting for someone. Maybe he was just a teenager playing a prank. Or maybe he was something else. Something worse. My hand was shaking inside my glove. I wanted to run. I wanted to scream. But I was frozen, just like him. The man in the white mask had turned our creepy night into a truly scary one. And the worst part was just beginning. We had to make a decision. We couldn't stand there all night. The man in the white mask didn't move. He just watched us. "Let's cross the street," I whispered. "We can walk on the other side." It seemed like a good plan. We would put some distance between us and him. We wouldn't have to walk right past him. Maya and Liam nodded. They were both pale. We started to walk, very slowly, across the street. Our boots made loud, crunching sounds in the snow. I felt like we were making too much noise. I didn't want him to pay any more attention to us. As we walked, I kept my eyes on him. I watched him from the corner of my eye. He didn't follow us. He just stood there. But his head moved. It turned slowly, following our progress across the street. The white mask was always facing us. It was like a tracking device. My heart was pounding in my chest. I felt sick. This wasn't a prank. This was different. This was real fear. We reached the other side of the street and started walking faster. We didn't run. We didn't want to make it seem like we were scared. But we were. We were terrified. We tried to act normal. We walked to the next house with its light on. "Maybe we should just go home," Liam said. His vampire cape was covered in snow. "No," Maya said, trying to sound tough. "We can't let him scare us away." But her voice trembled. We walked up to the door and rang the bell. I kept looking back over my shoulder. The man in the mask was still there. He was a dark shape under the distant streetlight, a silent observer in the snow. He hadn't moved from his spot, but I felt like his eyes were still on us. The person who answered the door gave us candy, but I barely noticed. I couldn't stop thinking about the man. Why was he there? What was he doing? The fun of trick-or-treating was completely gone. Now, it was all about survival. My candy bucket felt heavy and useless. I just wanted to be home, safe in my warm house. But we were far from home, and the man in the white mask was still out there. Our little group was not a team of brave adventurers anymore. We were a nervous, scared bunch of kids, and our unity was starting to crack. We continued down the street, trying to ignore the figure behind us, but it was impossible. Every few steps, one of us would glance back. He was always there, the same spot, the same white mask, the same unnerving stillness. The snow was falling harder, making it more difficult to see. But we could always make out his dark shape. Liam was getting more and more panicked. "This is a bad idea," he said again. "My house is just 2 streets over. I'm going home." He looked at us, his eyes wide with fear. He didn't want to go alone. Maya and I looked at each other. My house was in the opposite direction. It was the farthest away. Maya's house was somewhere in the middle. "Okay, Liam," Maya said softly. "You should go home." We walked with him to the end of the long, creepy street. We looked back one last time. The figure was gone. The spot under the streetlight was empty. For a second, I felt a wave of relief. Maybe he had left. Maybe it was all over. But then a new fear crept in. Where did he go? Knowing where he was felt safer than not knowing. We said goodbye to Liam at the corner. "Be careful," I told him. He nodded and started walking quickly down his street, his blue parka disappearing into the falling snow. Now it was just me and Maya, 2 of us. The group was getting smaller. We felt more vulnerable. "My house is this way," Maya said, pointing down another dark street. "Do you want to come with me? You can call your parents from my house." I thought about it. Her house was closer, but then my parents would have to come out in the storm to get me. "No, I'll be okay," I said. "My house isn't that far." It was a stupid decision. I knew it was stupid the moment I said it, but I didn't want to be a bother. We said our goodbyes. "Text me when you get home," she said. "You too," I answered, and then she was gone. A witch in a pointy hat, walking away into the white darkness, and then there was one. I was alone, completely alone in the Halloween snowstorm. The silence rushed back in, louder than before. My ghost costume felt cold and damp. I turned toward my street, my heart beating like a drum. The adventure was over. Now, I just had to survive the walk home. The walk home was the longest walk of my life. Every shadow looked like a monster. Every gust of wind sounded like a whisper. My plastic pumpkin bucket banged against my leg with every step. The sound was too loud in the silent night. I clutched it tightly to stop the noise. I was alone, and I was scared. I tried to think about happy things, the warm fire at home, my bed, the huge pile of candy I had collected, but honestly, my mind kept going back to the man in the white mask. Where did he go? Was he watching me now? I felt a prickling on the back of my neck. The feeling of being watched. I walked faster. My boots crunched on the snow. Crunch, crunch, crunch. It was a steady rhythm. But then I heard another sound. Crunch, crunch. It was a different rhythm. It was behind me. I stopped. The other sound stopped too. My blood ran cold. I stood perfectly still, listening. The only sound was the wind. Maybe I was imagining it. My mind was playing tricks on me because I was scared. I started walking again, a little faster this time. Crunch, crunch, crunch. And then I heard it again. Crunch, crunch. Someone was walking behind me. I didn't dare to look back. I was too afraid of what I might see. I was too afraid to see that blank white mask floating in the darkness behind me. I just kept walking. I tried to make my footsteps quiet, but it was impossible in the fresh snow. The footsteps behind me continued. They were slow and deliberate. They weren't trying to catch up to me. They were just following me, keeping the same distance. I was being hunted. My house was still a block away. It felt like 1,000,000 miles. My breath came out in white puffs of air. I could see them in front of my face, my street. I finally saw the sign for my street. I almost cried with relief. I turned the corner and started to run. I didn't care about being quiet anymore. I ran as fast as I could. My feet slipped in the snow. My pumpkin bucket swung wildly, spilling some of my candy. I didn't care. I just had to get home. I could see my house. The lights were on. The porch light was a golden beacon of safety in the stormy night. I could hear the footsteps behind me getting faster. He was running now too. I fumbled for my keys in my pocket with my clumsy gloved hand. I had to get inside. Now. My fingers were numb with cold and fear. I couldn't get a good grip on the keys. I dropped them. They disappeared into the deep snow on my porch. No. I fell to my knees, digging frantically in the snow. My ghost sheet was tangled around my legs. I could hear the footsteps getting closer. Crunch, crunch, crunch. They were right behind me, on my lawn, coming up my front walk. I was crying now. Tears streamed down my face, freezing on my cheeks. I was so close to safety, but I was trapped. I was going to be caught. My hand touched something cold and metal. The keys! I grabbed them and scrambled to my feet. I jammed the key into the lock. My hands were shaking so badly. The key wouldn't turn. The footsteps stopped. They were right behind me, on my porch. I could feel him there. I didn't need to turn around. I could feel the coldness of his presence. I held my breath. I expected a hand to grab my shoulder. I expected a voice to whisper in my ear. But there was only silence. The terrible, heavy silence from before. I took a deep breath and tried the key again. It turned. The lock clicked. It was the loudest sound I had ever heard. I threw the door open and stumbled inside. I slammed it shut behind me and locked it. I leaned against the door, panting, my heart feeling like it was going to explode. I was safe. I was home. I stood there for a long time, just breathing. The warmth of the house slowly started to chase away the cold. I was shaking from head to toe. I ripped the ghost sheet off my head and threw it on the floor. After a few minutes, my courage returned. Just a little. I had to know. Was he still there? I crept to the small window next to the front door. I peeked through the curtains. The porch was empty. The snow on the steps was disturbed where I had fallen, but there was no one there. I looked out at the street. The snow was still falling heavily. The world was a swirl of white. And then I saw him. He was standing across the street, under a tree, just standing there, staring at my house. The man in the white mask. He just stood there, a dark figure against the white snow. The plain white mask was pointed directly at my house, at my window. He knew I was watching him. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the night. He had followed me all the way home. He had stood right behind me on my own porch, but he hadn't touched me. He hadn't said a word. What did he want? Why was he doing this? The mystery was almost scarier than being caught. I didn't understand, and that made it so much worse. I felt like a bug trapped in a jar, being watched by something I couldn't comprehend. My mom came into the hallway. "There you are," she said. I was getting worried. "You're soaking wet. Did you have fun?" I couldn't tell her. How could I explain? She would think I was making it up. She would say my imagination was running wild because it was Halloween. "It was cold," I said. It was the only thing I could think to say. I quickly moved away from the window. I didn't want her to see him. I didn't want her to look outside. He was my secret, my terrifying secret. I didn't want to bring this fear into my safe, warm house. I went upstairs to my room and looked out my window. It had a better view of the street. I peeked from behind my curtain. He was still there, the silent watcher in the storm. He hadn't moved an inch. He was so still, he almost looked like part of the landscape, a strange, human-shaped tree. I watched him for what felt like hours. I texted Maya and Liam, "I'm home." They both replied that they were home and safe too. I didn't tell them I was followed. I didn't tell them the man was standing outside my house right now. I couldn't. Eventually, I must have fallen asleep, right there on the floor by my window. When I woke up, the sun was shining, the snow had stopped, the world was bright and clean. I jumped up and looked out the window. The street was empty. The spot under the tree was just a patch of clean white snow. He was gone. It was over. But was it? I never saw the man in the white mask again. I never found out who he was or what he wanted, but I never forgot him. And every time it snows on Halloween, I think of him, the silent watcher. And I wonder if he's still out there, watching, waiting.